Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Jim K. Ford Sens Nation podcast. My name is Steve Warren. I'm the site editor at the Hockey News Ottawa Senators site, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Greg Kennedy, longtime, well, I was going to say junior hockey coach, but really coach at every level pretty much. Not pro. Did you ever get a pro job? Like, do you?
No.
Okay, good.
I've never coached pro. Well, I spent a week with the Cornwall Aces once, Steve, when I was shadowing Jacques Martin down there back in the late '90s in a little shadow program that was kind of fun. That's the closest I ever got.
There you go. Very good. But still, lots and lots of coaching background and experience. And let's get into things because it's been a very lively week. Thanks to Mike Johnson, NHL analyst, for joining us on our most recent podcast prior to this one. And I've not had an opportunity to chat with you about this, Greg, the whole social media controversy. I'd be keen to hear what you thought about everything, and did the Sens handle things the right way, or did they just flat out call more attention to a subject that was not really, it was kind of 100 people muttering about it on social media. It might have grown from there, maybe not, but then you sort of thrust it into the public sphere, and now you're talking about millions of people who
Right.
learned about the controversy. How do you think they handled
Well,
it?
it's what's known as the Streisand effect, Steve. I didn't know this until this happened. Did you know about the Streisand effect? That's what they call this.
I did.
Oh, okay. You're a better man than I. But
No.
I think that might have that's become the bigger story, right? The bigger story has been the statement from Steve Stais. I think the bigger story has become should they or should they have not said something? Should they have left it alone or should they have come out and spoken on it? I think it comes down to the bottom line is Steve Stais is defending his players. He stepped up and defended his players and said, this is crap. This is people trying to affect our program and we don't appreciate it. And, I mean, he used more colorful language, but it's historically the way this ownership group and management group have acted. They stepped out and defended the Brady Tkachuk to the Ranger trade stuff, the Drake Batherson trade stuff. You remember Michael Andlauer at the golf tournament. Even Michael Andlauer defending stories that were saying he was going around hat in hand trying to find federal money and provincial money and municipal money to pay for the arena. There's been all kinds of things historically where the Senators have stepped up and denied things. So the question becomes, was it the right thing or the wrong thing? And I think the only people that can judge that are the people involved, and the player reaction, at least front-facing camera, has been, yeah, we love it. We think it was great what Steve Stais did. So in that sense, it's those are the people that matter. Like the message, yes, the message is delivered to the person who posted this and to the people who are continuing to let it flow and continuing to talk about it. But from an internal message system, I think it was the right thing to do from that sense, in that it showed the players that you're behind them and you support them. And I think you kind of feel the same way, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I think I was 50-50 when it happened. I did say right away that I felt like it was one of those things that's a double-edged sword.
Right.
You're going to call all this extra attention to it, but at the same time, your players are going to feel defended and appreciative. And that's a huge deal for the reasons you talked about. But also, this is an organization that now wants to be in a position to be best in class. That's their motto. And they want this to be a place where players want to be. There's really nothing you can do about Ottawa's terrible weather and being a high tax situation here. Nothing you can do about that. But they've really diligently tried to scrub this organization of the dysfunction of previous ownership. And it was really important to them, I think, to make sure the players knew that, this is a gong show happening on social media. We're not going to tolerate it, and we're gonna take up for you guys. So I think that was absolutely huge. And the other part is, I think it's about measuring out whether you want short-term pain or long-term pain. And they
Yeah.
opted for the short-term pain of getting this thing nipped in the bud, addressing it, speaking out very strongly and emotionally about it, and we're not tolerating this. And you look at the numbers. If you look on Twitter, there were 5 million people who viewed Steve Stais' statement about this controversy. 5 million between Thursday when the statement came out and Saturday when I noticed it. And then 24 hours later, today as we record this on Sunday, there was 5.1 million. So it had really slowed to a halt,
Mm-hmm.
making me kind of believe that they got out in front of it. And I feel like the bonfire that was created really high and really big to start with, I feel like it's out of fuel now a little bit. And instead of like coming out in dribs and drabs if they had ignored it, we're not going to get the Corey Perry, Connor Bedard situation, that whole mess that was a total lie, and just it's not going to just sit out there and not be addressed, and there will be no hot spots, I feel. And so I think they handled it from that perspective in exactly the right way.
The only thing that can kind of screw things up now is if there's any truth to any of it, right? And we'll never know, or maybe we will know. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see how the team reacts. First game back, Florida, pretty good effort, but again, dropped 2 points. PK was not good. Goaltending wasn't great. The usual story. So it'll be interesting to see how the team reacts on the ice with a couple of wins, potential easy wins coming up in their next two starts.
Right. Well, I'd say this to that in that I have no reason. If this were the previous ownership, I'll be honest, I would be thinking along those lines, if there's any truth to this. But for now, until you give me reason not to trust you, I'm trusting you. And right
Yep.
now, that's where I'm at with the new regime. But as we kind of start to think about hockey again, and I did that last night, as many Sens fans did. On Saturday night, the Senators take on the Florida Panthers, and they fell 3-2 to the Panthers, and they had some opportunities. Man, does Sergei Bobrovsky have that team's number? I think they had Sportsnet put up a stat, Greg. In the last 15 games, Sergei Bobrovsky is 12-3 with just insane numbers, goals against and save percentage. I don't have the stats in front of me, but he really has their number, and it looked like he did again on Saturday night.
He was the difference. There's no question about that. And it's a lot of extra pressure to put on a Levi Marilainen who's already feeling pressure. Hey, you're going to face Bob tonight, who pretty much owns us. If you give up two, it's good case. Probably, if you give up two, we're probably going to have to win in overtime at best case scenario. And I mean, that's pretty much what happened. You can't afford to give up that third goal. And they just not quite there, right? Just couldn't quite finish. How many chances they had. But then again, Florida had 4 goal posts or something. They kept hitting the posts. Ottawa had their chances, but just couldn't get it done again. And I wonder if Thursday night in Denver was like the point we're going to look back on and say, I think the season ended that day. Like that was it. That loss in Colorado, in Denver to the Avalanche. It's no shame to lose to the Colorado Avalanche, but it is a shame to lose to them the way you did, with the score that you allowed, the goals that you allowed. And I wonder if that we're going to look back on it and say, yeah, that was it. Season ended right then and there. It was over from that day on.
There's certainly a chance. You think about that day in general. That was the same day as the whole thing broke about.
Yeah.
And somebody put this thing out on social media, this nasty, scandalous post. The Sens address it, and then there's all kinds of talk afterward. And then they get crushed 8-2 by Colorado. And in the middle of the game, Darren Dreger puts out a tweet about, the Sens have just signed James Reimer. It almost felt, I don't know if it was actually in the middle of the game, but that's how it kind of came off, because the tweet came out in the middle of the game. It almost came off like the organization, just like after the second period of seeing, Sogard and Marilainen struggling, they said, get me a phone. I'm making Reimer. And Reimer's up here in the press box with me. Okay, you got a job. And so Thursday in general, I think will go down as a very bad day. And you're right. If it continues along this path, then that may be the day where you kind of go, okay, that may be where the old back was broken. Right now, we are now beyond the benchmark of U.S. Thanksgiving, where we always talk about, well, if you're in American Thanksgiving and you're not in a playoff spot, you generally don't get there most of the time. We are now a month and a half beyond that. And the Ottawa Senators right now stand 7 points out of a wild card spot. They would have to jump over 7 teams who were in the wild card hunt for that last wild card. 7 points and 7 teams out of the wild card, and they're 11 points back of the top 3 in the Atlantic. Third place, Montreal, is 11 points ahead of the Sens right now. And so being that far beyond the American Thanksgiving, they're going to need something Hamburglar-esque to salvage things and get to the playoffs. And right now, goaltending, I don't think many people are particularly confident in what they have going right now. Though having said that, Marylainen, I think, supplied adequate enough goaltending that you can win with that on Saturday night.
Yes, I would agree, and so would Travis Green. I'm sure I didn't catch it, but I'm sure Travis Green said I liked our game, and he even said it the Colorado game after the goal that was called back. Post game, he said I liked our game up to that point. It was 3-2. They then gave up. That goal didn't count, and they then gave up what was it, like 6 goals in the next 8 minutes. But he still liked his team's game up to that point, and I'm sure he liked the game against Florida. They played well enough to win, but hey, it's a wins league. The only way you get points is by winning. So playing well enough to win or winning is a very big distinction. There's a big difference between the two. And there's only so many moral victories. There's only so many nights you can say, oh, we're close. The process is there. We're going to win some of these games. The time is now. Okay, Florida's now leading the league in 1-goal wins. I don't know. I'm sure Ottawa probably leads the league in 1-goal losses. Like, it's time. Like, enough of this. Eventually, even Travis Green's going to get tired of saying it. Enough is enough. No more play well enough to win, but don't. It's time. How about play poorly and win? I'd settle for that. Just do something to get 2 points.
Certainly, Travis Green would settle for that as well. And trusting the process and all that. It's what you have to do, and there's not much choice. It's just to hear it again and again. The Silver Linings Playbook is basically what I'll call it, to quote the Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence movie. Very good movie, by the way.
Good movie, yes, good movie.
Yeah. Also featuring the Philadelphia Eagles, who bowed out probably about 20 minutes ago against the San Francisco 49ers. Didn't hate to see that. What a great wild card weekend. I was just every game. My Packers, unfortunately, blew an 18-point lead. But it was like, I think that the stat I saw, at least leading into the late game on Sunday so far, all the wild card games, I think, were the loser was leading with less than 2 minutes to go so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about Josh Allen? That's a hell of a fourth quarter from Josh Allen, too, for the Bills. Tonight's game be good, too. My Pats are back in the real world again, playing football again. But anyway, we should talk hockey, Steve. What do we think about the Reimer? What do you think about the, what do they call him? Artemis Rhyme? No.
Optimus.
Optimus Rhyme. Artemis. Anyway, what do we think about James Reimer in his debut this afternoon for the Belleville Senators?
It's not a great start, but
No.
let's cut him some slack. He hasn't been playing regular amounts of hockey. He played a couple of games at the Spengler Cup, and he's got a contract now. He's 37 years of age. He certainly had the Senators' number. I would. It's certainly not Bobrovsky-like, but he would have one of the best records of any goalie in Sens history against the Sens.
Mm-hmm.
But he got pumped for 6 goals in his Belleville debut on Sunday. What did you say his save percentage was?
Yes, 786, Steve. That's whoa, under 80%. That's geez. Well, that you'll fit right in. You fit right in. But no, I shouldn't say that, because even the Senator goalies are over 85, aren't they? Like, it's not that bad, but kind of scary.
I'm just on the phone with one of my insiders who's informing me that the 700 save percentage is not good.
Not good. Anything that starts with a 7. Not good. Not good.
8, even 8. I mean, it's just anyway. That's not good, and not off to a great start. But it's early. He's obviously the reason he didn't arrive in Ottawa is because he, as with say Dennis Gilbert before him when he arrived from Philadelphia as a defenseman in that trade for Max Gwinnett. They probably could have used him the moment that trade went down, but he hadn't played in a while. So he goes down to Belleville, and then since then everybody got healthy, so he really hasn't seen much action in Ottawa.
But is it the answer?
Is Reimer the answer? Of course not.
Of course not, right? Like, oh.
Yeah. The more I see, while I haven't been in love with Ullmark's game, that I think is really the only option because, let's be honest, to get a goalie who's going to turn you around, you're giving up a ton. If otherwise, if you're just going to go out and get a guy who's like, I don't know, best guy in American Hockey League team or whatever, you're not sure. You're basically not any farther ahead. You're still hoping, If you're going to get a guy who's concretely going to turn your goaltending around right now, you're paying through the nose for it. And this isn't an organization that has a lot to give up. So
That's the key.
I think if the team is going to make the playoffs, it will only be through Linus Ullmark getting healthy, based on what I've seen so far.
I agree completely. And that is the key to acquiring anything is you don't have anything to give up unless it's a roster player, and you can't afford to give up a roster player. Like they simply cannot. I mean, I used to say, okay, a Ridley Gregg, or, even a year and a half ago or a year ago, I was saying Ridley Gregg, Shade Pinto, one of them can maybe get you something you need. But even now, uh, I don't know. What would you even consider trading that's gonna be good enough, attractive enough to anybody to get you a goaltender? And I don't think there's anything on this roster that you'd be willing to give up, unless it's a blockbuster, Thomas Chabot, but you get a defenseman back to take that place. I don't know. I don't think they can make a deal to get a goaltender this season.
I don't see it either. Everybody's hanging on to their goaltenders right now. And it's hard to make any trade for anything because everybody believes they still have a shot. It's starting to thin out a little now. And honestly, the Senators are in that Wilson volleyball drifting away from the Eastern Conference raft right now. They're in that little clump over there. They're starting to be in there. They're not done, but generally speaking, everybody still fancies themselves as a possible playoff contender. And so nobody's going to weaken their roster. So it's going to be interesting to see how they approach things. I will say this: I'm not panic button mode like the boys on TSN 1200 were after the Colorado game,
Okay.
but I am very close. I think for me, when you look at the next two games, like you talked about earlier, you've got Vancouver on Tuesday at the CTC, and then you got the New York Rangers in New York the day after on Wednesday. Those are two really, those are two of the weaker teams. Vancouver's worst in the West. The Rangers are only 1 point ahead of the Sens, so they're third last in the East. And so if you lose both of those games, that'll take to a spot where you've lost 6 in a row, where you will have lost 9 of 11. And I'm sorry, I at that stage of the game, if that happens, I'm throwing dirt on the season.
Stick a fork in her. Yeah. I said earlier, and I'm going to reiterate, I think they're done now, Steve. I think even if you could win those two games, I don't know that that's good enough, because just that the number of teams you have to pass, and all those teams are playing each other. At least one of them's getting a point or two every night. It's too much of a task, too daunting of a task to get there. Because and even if you win those two, next up is Detroit and Montreal. Like, you need to get on a winning roll. You need to get on it quick, and it better last longer than 4 games. Like, this team really needs to rhyme off a Buffalo Sabre. What is it, 9 of 10, or are they up to 10 of 11 now? You need something like that to happen to try to get somewhere. And maybe it's James Reimer rhyming off a win streak. I don't know, but something's got to give, or else I think they're done right now.
The Sabres, I think, and I didn't follow it too closely. I think their streak ended, but I think they got it to double digits. They got to 10 straight wins.
They lost the Islanders.
That's shocking. That's another reason why the Sens are up against it right now, and why they couldn't afford to have this run they're on right now of 4 straight losses and losers of 7 of 9. It's just the worst possible time for it, because a lot of the teams that they kind of counted on being better than, Buffalo, historic playoff drought, the Red Wings' second longest active playoff drought, the Habs, those are all teams that were behind them in the standings last year, and now they're all significantly in front of the Sens. And so even if the Sens were playing well, those teams moving up and getting it going, that's making it all the trickier. So, man, are we sounding bleak right now? Jeez. But, scoring trouble also becoming an issue. You mentioned about, finishing, and you think about Drake Batherson's side of the net with almost basically an open net, and he hits the far post on it. Right now, through 44 games, the Sens have no 20-goal scorers. And there are, I think, 30 of those around the NHL. To me, it's like that's one thing we don't talk about. Everybody's talked about goaltending, rightly so. Everybody's talked about the penalty kill struggling, rightly so. And again, it was a problem on Saturday. They gave up 2 on 4 chances. But not having that high-end finisher or two, to me, Tim Stützle is that guy. He's in that realm. He'd be in that discussion. But and Batherson, pretty solid. But even Pinto, like this, there's just not enough of those guys that finish consistently because, it's not like their shooting percentage is horrible. It just seems like when they have those 5-alarm chances, great chances to score, the timely scoring hasn't been there either.
No. Where's Danny Heatley when you need him?
Right.
Like this team has not had a consistent every single year in, year out, 40-plus goal scorer. If you want to call it a superstar, like I believe Timmy Stützle is very, very good, but he's not the superstar. He's very, very good, but not a superstar, plain and simple. And I think that hurts them, that they don't have that one standout guy who you can count on night in, night out. Yeah, Timmy went on a nice point streak there, but the team wasn't even winning games. But yeah, they do not have a pure goal scorer, a pure finisher. And we can dish and crap on Pierre Dorion all we like, but Alex DeBrincat was supposed to be that guy. He at least went out and tried to find one and got what was supposed to be a finisher for this team. But they don't have one. They haven't drafted one. They haven't acquired one. One hasn't developed in the system. It's what's missing among this top 6 forward group where they need a top 6 forward. Well, that guy better be a finisher. That's the number one priority in a top 6 forward that's needed on this team.
I do think Stützle is knocking on the door to superstardom. I think he's a star, but he's knocking on the door to superstardom. And when he gets a little more selfish, he's going to be the better for it. Because right now, I think, just socially speaking, I think he wants to make his teammates kind of happy. It's almost like he forgoes opportunities to be selfish and like kind of that Ovechkin. I don't mean selfish. You know what I mean, though? Like that Ovechkin mentality. It's like, I'm going to score, man. If Stützle can develop that and not worry so much about setting up his buddy and having that moment, which is great. We all love that. And whether you're, a spectator or whether you're playing the game of hockey's fun when you make a big assist and and your buddy scores. That's pretty cool. But I'd like to see Stützle start getting a little more shoot first. Take it wide and use that speed and drive to the net. All of those things. Just start getting a little more selfish. Then I do think you will see him move up into that superstardom kind of mode.
Well, they need it. I look forward to seeing it happen, but they definitely need it from somebody.
Yep. The guy turns 24 this week, so he is still a very, very young hockey player.
Yeah.
In just a moment, we're going to talk about we're bringing the birthdays back. The Sens birthdays.
Yeah.
We have to come up with a name for it again. Maybe we did before, but it's been so long since we did it. I don't even know what we called it back then. And we'll also, when we return, we're going to play back Brady Tkachuk's comments because, let's be honest, the media scrums, I would say, 49 out of 50 are pretty much take it one game at a time, the standard Bull Durham stuff. But Brady Tkachuk's reaction about the situation with the social media controversy and the team statement, his reactions to things, very much worth listening to. So we'll talk about that coming up after these words.
Go where others fear to tread this winter in the SUV that's built for it. The 2025 Bronco Sport with standard 4x4 capability. Right now, get $2,500 in rebates on eligible 2025 Bronco Sport models during the Ford Winter Break event. Visit Jim K. Ford today for details.
At Jim K. Ford Lincoln, we say yes!
Here in Canada, we don't just make lights. We craft possibility, connection, and celebration. Built right here by people who care about what they're creating. At Celebrite, we're made of all the colors of the RGB rainbow, each person bringing their own brilliance. Because when we come together, we make something brighter. Celebrite.ca, proudly made in Canada.
Once again, Greg, we want to welcome our great new sponsor, Midas. You can find your favorite location at Midas.com.
We talked last week, last show, Steve, about the buy three, get one free on the Nexen tires. These guys sell every kind of tire, from the low grade to the high grade, any tire you like. But the best part is, no matter what tire you buy, you get a lifetime warranty on this sucker, right? If you get a flat, all you got to do is go into Midas, anywhere in North America. If they can repair it, they'll repair it for free. If they can't repair it, they'll replace it, Steve. Brand new tire, free of charge. All you got to do is pay for somebody to install it. Hit up a Midas and get some new tires.
Welcome back to the program. Is there any housekeeping stuff I got to take care of? Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll throw that in there. The podcast consultants are on me. Oh my God, it's craziness. The media was on Brady Tkachuk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're asking questions of all kinds of people. And the thing about the social media controversy is you could tell that everybody appreciated the statement that GM Steve Staios put out. It was initially, I think, questioned in a lot of corners from the perspective of, oh man, you just threw gas on the fire. You just drew way more attention to it. And for reasons we talked about earlier in the podcast, I don't think that is as important as the other factor of having the players' backs, nipping the thing in the bud, and that's what they seem to have done. Anyway, on Saturday morning after the game day skate, prior to the loss to the Florida Panthers, the media wanted to have a word with all the players, the coach, and they were all appreciative about it. But Brady Tkachuk, I think, was the most notable one. Maybe it's the Wingman podcast where he's dropping F-bombs with his brother all the time, but
Yeah.
Profanity was a big part of this, but I think it was also the fact that he was clearly irritated about the circumstances. So let's play back Brady Tkachuk's Q&A with the media on Saturday morning, then we'll come back and talk about it.
Can we just get this right out of the way here? Lots of noise around the team here. Any comment on that?
Yeah, not gonna lie, it's pretty. I mean, I don't think anybody's pretty happy about a narrative being spread like that. I think it's okay for people to critique our on ice performance, but when it gets into family, it's pretty. So, it's embarrassing that it got to the point that it did, and I could tell you for free, I'm not happy about it one bit.
Easier said than done to turn off the noise?
Yeah, I mean, it's not true. It's just a story that's just how it is in our society and life now, that people can just say whatever they want and no repercussions and don't really realize who it affects. So it's just crazy that, I mean, to bring up a crazy story like that and talk about people's families and stuff like that too. I honestly can't really wrap my head around it.
Could it have a way of uniting the room?
Yeah, I mean, it's not true. So it's almost like it's something, I guess, to bond you with, where you should never have to deal with that. So it's it's not true, and honestly, I really feel bad for Linus. It's nobody knows what he's going through, but the fact that he has to even deal with this and even have to think about it, where now all we care about for him is getting what he needs, and we said from day one that he's had our support, the whole organization's support from day one. Now that he has to deal with this, it's mind-blowing.
So there is Brady Tkachuk with the media. What are your impressions of how the captain was in that session, Greg?
I love it. It's emotional. It's coming from a good place. It's coming from the heart. I don't care about the expletives like that. That's the way hockey players talk. That's what you're going to get. It's not like he did it on live television. And I will say this, like if he's lying, man, he's a good liar. Like if this whole thing is true and Brady said what he said, like, wow. So I believe him. I believe it's all crap. I believe he is genuinely concerned about Linus Hallmark. I believe he is genuinely touched by what Steve Stais said and did in support of his teammates and himself. I thought it was great.
I'd agree. And Tim Stützle was, you know, I believed what he had to say, and I don't want to go and recapture what was said on social media, but if what was said was the truth, like you said, like Stützle, for example, talked about how beloved Ullmark is, and if the allegation was true, I think everybody in the room would be super upset, and that would be a hard thing to fake, as it was, as you mentioned with Brady Tkachuk. So I think this is as exactly this the Sens are presenting it, and just a false, fabricated thing that's occurred here. And Brady Tkachuk, my 2 cents on the way he handled that was, standard Brady.
Yeah.
But I got to say that as I was listening to it, I can't get away from what's going to happen in 3 years, and that's the expiry of his contract. And people want him to stay with the Ottawa Senators, and so re-signing here, it's going to cost them, but at the same time, it'll only happen if the guy is over the moon happy. And from a competitive standpoint, the season is not going in the right direction right now. And this, based on his irritation level, talking in terms of like I can't believe it, how people can be like that. My concern is that he's attaching this to our market and to our fan base. And I don't think it's necessarily, in fact, I'd be quite confident in saying that nobody who labels himself an Ottawa Senator fan would ever remotely ever think about that. And so that was just as I was listening to him there and his level of irritation, my hope in terms of him, being here long term, my hope is that he's not attaching that to this market as an NHL team fan base, because that could be problematic too.
Yeah. Is it just one more liter of gas going into the gas tank that he's going to use to drive himself out of town in 3 years? Right. There's been other incidents, and we've talked about every one of them. And every time something's come up like this, we always say this, you say, or I say, one of us says this exact thing. Is this going to piss Brady off? Like, how much is Brady going to be pissed off? And I think there's a part of me that thinks it's not healthy to be sitting around, sort of analyzing every little incident that pops up from the perspective of how Brady's going to react. I think you kind of, at some point in time, you got to say, look, things happen. You're in a Canadian market. Whatever the specific incident is, crap's going to happen because you're in a Canadian market. I think that if Brady leaves, it won't be an anti-Ottawa thing. I think it'll be the grass is greener there. I want to play with my brother, or I want to play in this market, or I want to play in this city, whatever. I don't think I don't think Brady's going to sit there in a press conference someday and say, yeah, well, A, B, and C pissed me off and I want out of here. I don't think he's ever going to say that.
All right, let's move on to a segment I'm now labeling Shaking Our Fist at NHL Rules and Officiating. That's a long name. I'll put it back on the drawing board. But we're shaking our fist, as we tend to do each and every show. And the shaking of the fist goes to the referee crew who decided that Carter Verhaeghe's hit from behind on Artem Zub, where he goes into the end boards, much harder than Brady Tkachuk did in the Roman Josi hit from behind early in the season, and that could have been ugly. But he got his hands out, which was very fortunate for him, because that could have been really catastrophic. But he got his hands up, and they had a little huddle. The referees huddled, and everybody's just assuming, because you can see Verhaeghe's got, he shoves his arms, he extends completely, and really drives Zub into the end boards head first. But the referees meet, and they decide 2-minute minor. 2-minute minor, Greg. What were your thoughts?
Terrible, terrible call. I was shocked, Steve, shocked. I could not believe that that's a minor. And I gotta believe that it's not just me or it's not just Senator fans. I'd like to think that any hockey fan who looks at that play would have the same reaction. That's just 2 minutes? Who are you kidding? Like they talked about it, they discussed it, they reviewed it, and they still said, it's a minor. Like, who are you kidding? Oh, I'm sure there'll be a fine. I think they could still step in with a fine, right? Didn't Yossi end up getting a fine on the Tkachuk thing? You have to refresh my memory. I'm not sure, but something's got to happen. That was just terrible, terrible non-call.
Fines. What is a fine max?
Yeah, but-
4 or 5 grand is the max,
Yeah,
or
I
something
know.
like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, it'd be nice to send a message, I guess, but really, in the big picture, that's couch change for most of these guys. Yeah, I didn't like it. I mean, I thought that was a very clear-cut situation, and it might have changed the whole dynamic of the game. You have a 5-minute major all of a sudden. It was 2-1 at that point in the game after Verhaeghe had just given them a 2-1 lead, and there was an opportunity out the door. Not that the Sens power play was going great guns per se, but hey, a 5-minute major, that seemed like a more appropriate punishment, and didn't happen. And so that is that. And there we go. We've shaken our fist for another show at the NHL officiating. To close today, Sens birthdays.
Yes.
We have active Senators and former Senators on the list today. And here on, as we publish this on a Monday, happy birthday to Claude Giroux, turning 38 today. And he's the Sens' 4th leading scorer. I don't think any Sens fans have any quibble, especially with the contract he got this year, a 1-year deal with bonuses in there as well. Claude Giroux has just been excellent, I think, especially at his age.
Correct. And I don't think there's a Sens fan that would be even mildly upset if Steve Stales came down tomorrow with a press conference and said, we just signed Claude for another year or even another 2 years. I think everybody would be just fine.
Yep. Tim Stützle will be turning 24 on January 15th. As I mentioned earlier in the show, former Sens defenseman Ben Harper is 31. Donovan Sabrango, who got was it Shane Pinto who got a big hit on Saturday night?
Mm-hmm.
Donovan Sabrango, he hasn't played every game. He's played about half the games, I think, for the Florida Panthers since he was claimed off waivers early in the year. He's still only 24 years of age. Is there a chance that maybe that's a player that comes back to haunt the Sens as one of those guys that got away?
I don't think so. I think he's nothing more than a depth defenseman. He's a 5'6", 7" guy. Speaking of 5'6", 7" Senator defenseman, our buddy Apricot signed a 2-year deal. Did you see that? The Bruins announced that yesterday. That Jonathan Aspero,
Nice.
2-year deal, about $875 a year. Good for him. That's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, he's had a good year in Boston, and they've had injuries on the blue line, and he won himself a job. It's a guy who's battled down in the minors for a very long time, and the Sens opted not to offer him a contract. Got the opportunity in Boston, made the most of it. I think he got injured recently.
He was out for a bit.
Yeah, nice to see him get a contract. That's great.
Yeah.
Then you got Austin Watson, who turns 34 on January 13th, and he always reminded me. Zach McEwen reminded me a lot of Austin Watson. Like he's a guy that was, a gamer and willing to go, but he didn't win that many fights here, did he?
No, he didn't. But he always showed up.
No doubt.
Like Todd Gill, never won a fight in his life, but he showed up for everyone. Austin Watson, he had the 2 goals every time they went to Detroit, right? And tarps off. There's my Austin Watson memories, my Waddy memories right there. Tarps off and 2 goals against Detroit anytime they went there.
And Connor Brown is 32 years of age this week as well. So there is your Senator birthday file, and that will do it for this episode of the Jim K. Ford Sens Nation podcast. As always, we appreciate you being here to either watch or listen in to the whole mess, because it was kind of a negative spin to the show. But we do appreciate you listening each and every show. And don't forget as well that our website is sensnationhockey.com. And check out as well the hockey news, thn.com/Ottawa. Any final thoughts before we head out the door, Greg?
Couple of big games coming up. You better beat Vancouver. You better beat the Rangers. Or you think the season might be over, and I think it already is. But let's see what happens against Vancouver and New York coming up this week.
Yeah, and we have 4. Yeah, we had There's 30-some games left in the season, so I hate to make the official declaration because I don't think it helps our views and listens here on the podcast devoted to the Ottawa Senators, Greg.
Hey, we'll still have lots to talk about, Steve. No problem.
They always give us lots to talk about. No question about that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here. Greg, enjoy your night, and we'll talk to you next time.